Rob and Slim Show.
Hey, it's Laura.
Laura.
Hello?
Hey, Laura, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Actress Laura Cayouette originally from Maryland. Is that correct?
I was born there, yeah.
Okay.
Well, D.C., yeah.
But you're in New Orleans now, correct?
Yes.
Cool. We're on live. You've been in a ton of films from Kill Bill 2 and Django. Is that your most is that the role you're most famous for? Django Unchained.
Probably so, yeah.
Yeah. And when
I think a lot of people see Tarantino movies for one thing, and then it was a very good part.
It was an amazing part. I rewatched it just the other night because we had I don't know, it was last year sometime we had Escalante Lundy on who played Big
sure.
Fred. And I'd wanted to watch it back then because I hadn't seen this in theaters. So when you were coming on this week, I'm like, I gotta watch it. And yeah, it's such a powerful movie. And I heard you say too that Tarantino wrote that part just for you, correct?
Well, he had me in mind when he wrote it. When I read the script the first time, I used to be one of the people that would get all the scripts when they were finished, so that I could, look at them and give them feedback and all that kind of stuff. And so I thought he was just sending it to me for feedback. And I read half the script. I'm not in the first half of the script, so I read half the script, and I'm just being carried along by the movie and thinking, oh, wow, this is amazing. And then at some point I came to a page that said, Lara Lee Candie-Fitzwilly, a tall, attractive, strawberry blonde, 40-ish Southern belle, and I was like, whoa, wait, what? And so I reread it a few times before. I thought, wait a minute, is this for me? And so, yes, he wrote it with me in mind.
Wow. And did you know beforehand or afterwards that you were going to be acting opposite of Leonardo?
Oh, he was not originally cast.
Wow.
They originally had me being the younger sister to somebody else. And then, things change.
Wow.
Can you tell us who was originally supposed to be in that part?
I actually can't, and I'm not being coy. I really don't know who it was that they were originally going to go with.
Wow, yeah, no, that's incredible. That's why I didn't know. I didn't know if you knew. I didn't know did it make you nervous? Like, I mean, you're a big actress, but did it make you nervous that you were going to be doing scenes with DiCaprio? I mean, you had DiCaprio.
No, I actually knew him as a teenager.
Wow.
So it was easy to think of him as a little brother. He had way back in the day, like in the early mid-'90s, I had taken a summer job at an agency to learn, what goes on at an agency. And so that agency happened to represent him when he was on Growing Pains.
Wow.
And so he and his dad used to come into the office all the time, and of course they'd have to wait in the waiting room, because back then he had to wait in waiting rooms. And so that was how I originally met him, and several times him and his dad came in there. So wow. I knew him as a teenage boy originally.
That's awesome. And I was gonna say too, I was gonna mention just working with Samuel. Does it ever surprise you how versatile of an actor he is? Because it always seems like he's completely different, Samuel Jackson.
He's a lot of fun because he is he is quite the pistol. He is very good at improv, and normally it used to be that working with Quentin, every single was scripted. Every single was scripted.
Yeah.
And then along the way, I guess he got used to working with some of the same actors over and over and all that. And by the time we got to Django, where there were so many of us who he'd already worked with before, there was a lot more room for flexibility. I actually got to write a couple of my own lines.
Cool. That's awesome. I was going to say, too, you had some very powerful scenes. Just the dinner scene where Leonardo insisted on showing Hilda's, whip bruises or whatever, and also this is just a scene when you brought Hilda to Dr. Schultz's room and he just closed the door in your face. It was just like, wow. wow. And up till
that was actually my first day of filming. Normally, really? Quentin likes to shoot in order, and he normally can make that happen to the best of his abilities, which is so great for the actors. For the actors, it's so much easier if we shoot in order because it allows us to develop our character in real time. But that particular scene happened to be shot, we were waiting on Leo. He was still doing Great Gatsby. So we had to start shooting things that he wasn't in. So
Wow.
I shot that scene my first day. And, it was one of those things where, between the technical issues of hoop skirts and 40-pound candelabras that are on fire and giant staircases, and, it was a lot.
What was wearing that, like, that period that dress like? What was that? Was that like a
it's a handicap. You can't do anything by yourself because you can't even reach anything by yourself. And I like when we would all load up into the van to go from home base to the set, I would have to have my own entire bench in the van all to myself.
I was going to ask if you had people like carrying the hoops, like people helping assist you to walk.
It's a burden. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's very heavy and cumbersome when you're wearing the petticoats, and it's huge when you're wearing the hoops. And since my family is actually, from the South, and, that is part of my heritage, it kind of put me in a place of being in touch with my own ancestors and seeing how that clothing affected just their daily life.
Yeah. I was going to say, too, the plantation it was filmed on, was that a real plantation?
Yes and no. The building, Candyland is a fictional place, and the building that we built to be Candyland, all the interiors were on a set.
Okay.
And then that exterior was built behind Evergreen Plantation, which is a real plantation that we used for the Big Daddy scene starring Don Johnson.
That was Don Johnson, yes. That's who I was trying to remember.
So that
before.
plantation, that gorgeous plantation with the double staircase coming down the front, that we were built in the field behind that. That's actually a working plantation. It's one of the few that still actually produces goods. Wow. And so we were built in the field behind that.
Okay. And also my other question about Django was in the scene where you got shot and you flew off of the scene, like how did that go down? Did they pull you or did you jump? Like it was really dramatic.
I couldn't jump that high and that fast if I wanted to. I wish I could be that athletic. No. He's an old-fashioned guy, so we did it an old-fashioned way. There's actually a machine that can do that now, but we did it the old-fashioned way where, there's a harness on me and there's a hook coming out the back that has a rope that goes up over a pulley and down to a man on a ladder.
Wow. That's what I was wondering, if you were pulled.
He would, when they would yell action, I would get shot and the blood packs would, the squibs would explode, and I would fly backward into about a foot-thick mat that was being held by 4 men, and it would catch me like a catcher's net, and then they would throw the mat down onto the ground so that it would slide across the floor and take my momentum.
Wow. Was it a couple takes? Was it one take?
4 one day and two days later when I was good and sore.
Wow. That's what Escalante told me.
I had it, and I was like, wait, what do you mean I got to do it again?
Escalante said there was a lot of takes.
I did a victory dance and everything.
Oh, man.
Well, that's just like part of Quentin Tarantino's style of filming. He likes to just have a lot of different angles to choose from, correct?
That was such a shocking scene, too.
Well, also, that ending had been changed. Again, Quentin used to be very meticulous about having everything already pre-planned, and this one he allowed us to affect the script. And so it was during the dining room scene that we had all taken it to a far darker place than he realized he had written. And so during lunch one day, we were shooting that scene for weeks, and during lunch one day, he came by the table and was like, wow, you guys have really made this so macabre. I don't think the scene afterward in the cake room is going to work anymore. I think we're going to have to go bigger. And then he walked away, and I looked at the table, and I was like, okay, we're in totally new territory now. I have no idea what's going to happen next, because it meant he was going to rewrite. And sure enough, he rewrote the entire ending to deal with the fact that we had escalated everything so much.
Wow.
So the original ending didn't have me flying out of the room like that. It was a completely different. It was out in the field out front, and there was this whole thing about that they felt badly that I was unarmed, and so the Django says, "Give her a gun," and then one of the guys that were the guys that work with the overseer, one of them looks at him and says, "Well, can I at least cock it for her?" Like there was this whole thing about poor Miss Laura is going to get killed, and we just have to watch now.
Oh, wow.
And all of that got cut in order to make way for this new ending.
Wow, that's amazing.
You can actually see the original ending in the comic books. There was a series of comic books done by, I think, 6 artists.
Yes.
And you can actually see the original script in that.
Wow, I did see that they were comics, so that's cool. I was going to ask you, too, your book, No Small Parts, KNOW Small Parts. What is that about?
Well, it's actually a pretty popular book. It's an actor's guide to turning minutes into moments and moments into a career. I've been told by many, many, many people that it's definitely not just for actors. It's for anybody who's a self-starter, entrepreneurial type person. But in any case, it's the book that I was always looking for when I was an actor. I read I don't even know how many books when I was starting out, and I never found the one that would just tell me, what is this? How do you do this? I wanted nuts and bolts stuff, not, Zen thinking or what. I wanted nuts and bolts information of like, when do I join the union? When do I move to LA? How do I get a free dress for the red carpet? Do I need an agent? What do they do for me? I wanted all the nuts and bolts information and the truth. I didn't want flowery language and a lot of hopes and wishes. I wanted to know what I was getting into. And so I finally, after 20 years of not finding that book, I just wrote it.
That's amazing. I saw, there was a lot of great reviews of it. It does look like a great book. I want to ask, too, just you mentioning that, are headshots necessary? They always seem like a scam to me. Like, it's like, go pay $600 to this guy and get some headshots.
Well, the headshot's pretty much the most important tool actors have, so I don't know that it's a scam. I mean, there's really not a whole lot we have else to reach our... That's the first thing you see.
I don't know if you could do your
casting.
own, though. Like, do your own on the cell phone. A couple selfies.
Or just a tripod, a tripod, a webcam, and a couple.
No, I wouldn't recommend that.
No.
I've been blessed to work with a lot of really great photographers, and I have to say they can make a tremendous difference. If you have a good headshot, it helps communicate, who you are and what you look like. And if you don't, then what can happen over time is when you walk into an office and you don't look like your headshot, it can be disruptive to the process. The casting people, the agents, whatever, might decide not to work with you based on the fact that you don't look like what you said you look like. And if you were to use a picture from your phone, they would think that you're not a serious person interested in having a serious career.
Yeah.
Even with a couple of Snapchat filters.
I was going to say, what about filters? I put that dog nose on me.
Filters are definitely bad. You don't want anything that's masking your skin. You don't want anything that's changing your eye color. You don't want, you wouldn't want anything that's changing your physical appearance.
Yeah.
So that is actually very interesting, and I never thought of that, where it's that, like, you need somebody to capture what you actually look like, because it's true. It's easy to take like a selfie and post it on the internet. It doesn't really look like you, like you said.
Just like you said. Yep, it doesn't really look like you.
Well, the other thing is that as a headshot needs to convey kind of your personality. It can't just be what you look like. That's obviously the most important thing, is that it look like you, but it needs to also convey kind of your casting. So without wearing costumes or anything like that, just your ability to communicate with your eyes and your expressions and the thoughts in your head need to be able to come through into the lens. And that would be very hard to do without professional help.
Yes. Definitely agree. Oh, I was going to say, too, what advice would you give somebody just starting out?
Well, I have to say that I think the mistake there's two things I see happen over and over. One is that people think that if they could just get discovered, they would be famous. And that is, like, it sounds to me like if somebody said, I could be Michael Jordan if somebody would just watch me play basketball. Well, no. Yeah. No, you could not. That is just not true. And so I think that thing of thinking that if somebody could just see you, that I see it even on reality TV. People will say things like, oh, just give me a chance. And I'm thinking, I just watched your chance. Yes. You just had your chance. We just all watched it together on TV. You're done now. So that thing of thinking that opportunities, come around and around. No, be prepared, be ready, be a pro. Don't go into an audition and think that, oh, well, once they see me, then once they get a load of this, they're going to make me a star. No, they're not. They're not.
We talked to a guy, he was on a show, he's on a popular show.
And then the other big thing is that a lot of people talk about getting an agent, and that's their primary concern is, how do I get an agent? Instead of asking, what do you need an agent for? You don't have anything to sell yet. If you have to prove you can make money. You have to prove that you're a working actor. And once you prove that you have value, then an agent might want 10% of that value. But don't worry about getting an agent until you have, work.
Yeah, something to show.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a ridiculous, again, I think it's a complete misunderstanding of how work works.
Yeah. I guess sometimes they would think, like, if I had this agent, they could be getting me jobs. So, like, I think would be a popular misconception.
That if you what?
Like, if you had the agent, that they could be getting you jobs.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. No, they're all 100% positive that if they just would be seen, and everything would be different for them. That all they need is this, they just need to get in the door. And if they could just get in the door, and the agent is one of those people that can get you in a door. Yeah. So they think, well, if I get an agent, I'll get in the door. And once I'm in the door, they'll discover me and love me and I'll be famous. And no.
I saw too, Laura, I saw that you were, before acting, you were an English professor, you were a nightclub DJ, model, and more. Is there anything you haven't done that you would still like to do?
Can I tell you, I'm a wayward astronaut. I really I wanted my career path to be
awesome.
Race car driver becomes astronaut. That's what I wanted.
You could go to that space camp. You could do that.
That was a goal then I found out I was a girl and all that got shabammed. But that was my original plan when I was little. So then I've always wanted to write. I've always been a writer, and so I started getting degrees in English and teaching writing and thinking what I was going to do with my life. And I have. I've written a series of mystery books, the Charlotte Reed Mysteries, that are all set here in New Orleans, and I've written a novel, Lemonade Farm, and, of course, No Small Parts.
Yes, I saw you had other books as well, so I figured you had a series or something like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. I love it.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm finishing that up. I'm almost done with the final book in the series.
Awesome. And what do you have any other upcoming projects you could tell us about?
Well, I always have something coming out. What do I have now? I just did a TV show a week ago that runs on Pop TV called Hot Date. So I'll be recurring in season 2 of that. And I have a movie that I shot with John Schneider called 1 Month Out, where I play Barry Bostwick is my husband, and he has Alzheimer's. And it seems to be one kind of movie about, like, that maybe his young bride, his younger wife that I'm playing is maybe trying to use his illness to lock him away and take advantage of his assets. But it every time you think you know where the movie's going, it switches gears again. Cool. So that's a fun movie. I have no idea when that's coming out or how that's coming out or whatever, but Ruth Buzzy played my aunt/best friend in it, which was a hoot.
That's awesome.
I got to do physical comedy. We got to do like a fight scene. I got to do physical comedy with. So that was pretty cool. And I got to dance the time warp with Barry, so that was very cool.
That's amazing.
Well, because John Schneider, at some point, we were standing in this set, and he says to Barry, he goes, "Could you just take a little jump to the left?" And I went, "Oh, come on, we got to do it now." So then we did a step to the right. So, we did the whole dance.
That's amazing.
And then I have another movie called American Rejects that is, there's a woman who was a contestant on one of those talent shows, and she has turned her experience into a comedic, like a black comedy farce movie. And I have a very unusual character for me in that. If it was a lip ring, I think. Anyway, I'm not my normal. I look a little different.
I was gonna say too, working with Ruth Buzzy, that's great because I know I follow her on Twitter. She doesn't even do interviews anymore because I think I messaged her once, and she doesn't do interviews anymore. So that's cool. Like that's just an amazing interaction that you got to work with.
Well, she's a hoot. She really is. She's a lot of fun to be around. And I understand her reluctance to, speak publicly and do all that anymore.
Yeah.
But she's a lot of fun to be around.
That's cool. I saw, too, you also teach. What do you teach acting?
Well, I offer private coaching now, and I have some students across the country now because we have Skype. So I'm able to now offer private coaching online, which is really terrific.
That is cool.
Because there's so many people who can't get to New Orleans for a coaching session, and this allows me to be everywhere. So that's wonderful. And I just taught at LSU a couple of weeks ago in their journalism department. That was my first time teaching in the journalism department. They wanted my expertise on social media and interviews and things like that. And I hadn't even really thought about, I'm an expert in all that too.
Nice. They should give you a doctorate.
Well, that's all right. I'm okay with the fact that I dropped out of getting my doctorate, but it is interesting to me how far. I've now taught in the English department, film and TV department, and journalism department of a variety of universities. So that's awesome. Pretty exciting.
I saw too. You got your master's in a record time, didn't you?
I did. I set a school record of getting my master's in 10 months. My name is now on the clock tower of their school.
That's amazing.
And not just for that. I won Distinguished Alumni Award 2014, so they put my name on the clock tower for that. And when I went to they had a big gala and everything to celebrate that. And when I went to that, I met a guy who had matched my 10 months.
Oh.
And he was the second person ever to do it. And he was like, I matched you.
Oh.
I thought, well, that's pretty cool. And also, 20-something years later.
I was just going to say,
cool.
I did it first. That's all you got to
Yes. Yes. Well, and he's still, nobody's beat me.
Yeah, no.
I don't know how you could, honestly. I don't even know how I did it. It was pretty maniacal.
I was going to say, hey, how do you do that? You just...
it's one of those necessity being mother of invention kind of things. I had planned to be there for 2 years, and then life interfered, and I found out I was going to be leaving after only 1 year, and I thought, well, then let me just get this done.
Got to do it. Got to wrap it up. That's awesome.
Laura, I'm curious. Rob had mentioned that you do all your own stunts. And I've always wondered, for somebody that does all their own stunts, do you have to constantly keep yourself in tip-top shape, or do you just you get a gig and you're like, oh, all right, I got to do this and start working out again for this gig?
I write about this in my mystery series because the girl in my mystery series is an actor, and so I tell a lot of behind-the-scenes tales, especially in the third book, Missing Ingredient. I tell that book has a movie in it that she spends a lot of time working on, and so I tell a lot of that behind the scenes stuff in there. But I think we all do it differently. For me, because I'm now aging, I think it's really important for I'm in use it or lose it territory at this age. As anybody my age is in use it or lose it territory. So that if you're not keeping yourself in some version of ready, it would be really hard to get ready quickly. And since I'm mostly, since I'm in New Orleans, I mostly am doing small parts. I don't have a lot of access to things that are being cast as leads because it's mostly done out of L.A. So by the time they cast me, there might only be, 24 hours, 48 hours of lead-in time. So, I could get weeks of prep. With Django, I had 5 months to prep, but it's rare. It's more normal for me to have about a week to prep at the most.
Wow.
And so if I were to count on my body's ability to bounce back that quickly, I would just be an injured wreck. so I keep myself,
yes.
some version of ready, and mostly to do with stretching because I think that's where most injuries occur. So.
Do you train in like a martial arts as well?
No, although I'm pretty great at faking.
That's awesome.
I have high kicks and stuff, so I'm pretty great at faking martial arts. Or so the guys from Hong Kong told me when I did martial law. I got to fight Sammo Hung, and that was pretty cool.
That's cool.
But yeah, I used to, despite my Amazonian height, I used to be a gymnast when I was younger, and which was something that Quentin knew when he designed that stunt for me.
Wow.
And so there's been one stunt I didn't get to do, which was a high fault. That's insurance issues. If you're over a certain height, they won't let you do it. And then there was one time that I hurt my finger, and they iced it and let the girl do one moment where she picked up the bicycle that I had been, that I had been working with, and they let her pick it up for this one shot, and I was like, no, because it ruined my perfect record of always doing every shot.
Yeah, I want that.
So,
Burn that
film. I didn't even do anything that was exciting, and I was like, no, don't let her touch that bike.
We have to wrap this up soon, Laura.
I'm fairly territorial about wanting to do my stunts, but at some point, I suppose at some point there will be less stunts, for my category. But I think also that at some point I'll have to cry uncle. There must come a day where I won't be able to do all the things I'm doing, but it hasn't come yet, so I just keep doing it.
Laura, we have to wrap this up.
I have one more question before we go. Can you tell us what is your favorite Quentin Tarantino film? Whether you were in it or not, what's your favorite film he ever did?
Gosh, that's kind of, does anybody have an answer to that?
I have a lineup, I think.
Yeah, I don't
Pulp
think I have
Fiction.
an answer.
Pulp Fiction's on top.
Reservoir Dogs?
Reservoir Dogs, yeah.
Well,
So
I think we can all agree that Pulp Fiction is fairly perfect as a film. So I think we can all agree that that's a pretty great film. But I have to tell you, for me, you're asking me a question that I'm going to have to cheat to answer, because Kill Bill, for all of us that made it, was one movie.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
And so Kill Bill is my favorite because to me it is a modern day Gone with the Wind. And Gone with the Wind is one of my favorite movies of all time because it's one of the few movies ever that has a female anti-hero. There are zillions of movies with male anti-heroes, but Gone with the Wind had this, fabulously awful female at the helm. And so when I first read Kill Bill, I was very impressed with this big, sweeping, epic story of this bad girl and who you'd root for. Yeah, Kill Bill, go ahead.
Kill Bill was great.
I really, that one really appeals to me, but I have to say, as a whole, not as a one or a two. I wouldn't pick a one or a two. I would say Kill Bill, the movie. The whole bloody affair.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Love that answer.
Yeah.
I have to agree.
Laura, we have to wrap this up, but thank you so much for talking to us. It's been a great
you're
time.
very welcome, and thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Where can everybody find you?
Well, I'm at lauracayouette.com. I'm on Twitter. I have a Facebook public page. I am toying with the tortuous idea of starting on Instagram.
I just did.
Somebody talk me out of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't tell you either way, but I'm not that impressed yet with it.
Oh, God, I just don't want one more thing that's eating my life that's not actually actually in my life.
That's
you know
what I said. Yes, that's exactly my feelings on it. It's
yeah. So, but I get it that we all have to do what we have to do.
Yeah.
So I might do that. But yeah, for now, LauraCayouette.com has a hub of all my. You can find my coaching there. My books are there. And anything that isn't right on that, there's a link to it.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura.
Yes, thank you so much.
Have a great night.
All right, y'all too.